So I just got to the first major spoiler that was leaked of Joel dying, and I'm one of those people who's like, hey, you gotta give the game a chance, maybe within context of I didn't exactly defend it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually pretty pissed at this current stage. I'm pretty pissed off at how the game handled it. I mean, yeah, part of me is like, that's a spit in the face of the fans. But the other part is like, I just find it kind of manipulative because you've been playing as Abby here and there. That's been fine. But also, like, Joel's just saved her life, and I wish there was... I guess a big part of it is, like, I just fucking hate Abby now. Like, Joel saved her life. It wasn't even, like, a moment of conflict of, like, but wait a minute, this guy just saved my life. I feel like I should just be feeling what Ellie's feeling of, yeah, go after her and get revenge, but I also aware I'm going to be playing as Abby, too. And I'm like, I have zero interest in playing as her now. And I kind of feel like the way it's just handled is manipulative and not really effective. And you barely even spend time with Joel. Even in, I know you're not going to play as him, but barely spend time with him in these cutscenes. But I'm still going to go through with it. I'm still going to play it. But right now, I'm not happy. I thought the game was fucking brilliant. I fucking loved it.
Those are my basic thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2. What's up, people? I'm Greg. Who are you?
And I'm Pat HOGUE.
Pat HOGUE is with us today. I'm very excited. He was one of the very first people I started talking to about this game. You beat it so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you beat it like real. I could only play in the evening after like 7 p.m. and then I would be up late. It took me about close to 30 hours to beat the game.
Same. It was pretty much every night starting at like 5, going in until about 11 at night.
Oh, wow.
Waking up at like 6 or 7 in the morning, playing for 4 hours, and like almost to a detriment of the game because, you know, it's not Mario. It's not like I'm doing like fun, like I'm contemplating like dramatic actions while like narrative, like guttural punches are happening, zoning out as I'm doing like marathons of this game. But yeah, I got through it pretty fast.
We're probably going to end up talking about this game in a way where as if you've played the game. We're going to be hopping around most likely, so we're not going to be reintroducing stuff. We're just going to be like just a talk as if you've played the game to make our life easier, to make your listening experience easier. So this is the kind of video it's probably going to be formulated for those viewers. Just letting you know.
If you're expecting a cohesive A to B,
yeah,
you have another.
We're not going to do it like that, right?
No.
It's not the way we roll here. This is going to be the first video game, official review of a video game ever done on this channel before. I intentionally, especially because I'm aware that this game has been getting a controversial backlash, especially even before its release, as I was aware of some of the leaks. Every leak I heard did happen in the game, but it didn't happen in the way of how the leaks set me up for the game. I love the game. If you're already here and you're already sold yourself like they're not going to validate my hatred opinion, I'm sorry, this won't be the video for you. All right.
But like the game, hopefully you can look at our perspective, see that there's two sides of the same coin, and, you know, maybe if you don't agree, you can understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, that's basically the whole point of it. It's like I'm willing to discuss this game with people who don't like it, people who even hate it, as long as they've played the game.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in truly engaging in a conversation with someone who hasn't played the game.
All the people who were like review bombing it on Metacritic the day it came out, it took us 30 hours to play it. Like, you didn't get the experience the way it was intended for a game that has some like daring narrative choices for it.
Exactly. Very early on in the game, I mean, obviously this video is going to be all spoilers, but very early on in the game, Joel is killed by Abby, right?
Yeah.
When Abby does that, as you saw in that video footage I showed you, I literally was pretty pissed off, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to get on board with this. I don't think I can get on board with Abby. You know? The bottom line is, if you're not able to get on board with playing as Abby, maybe not even liking her, but at least understanding her, this game, it's not for you. All right? And you'll hate it from there on out. You'll hate the way it ends. It's like plain and simple, right? And I can't fault you on that.
But it is funny because of all the discourse I've heard about the game. I was lucky to not be spoiled. I kind of went in clear, so like, and I played the first Last of Us.
And you liked it, right? Over a few minutes in. Yeah.
I love The Last of Us too. I think I do have like problems with it, more like structurally and more like pacing times, but in terms of story decisions, I kind of posted a very long emotional like review as soon as I finished playing it that I look at is a little bit over the top, but I stand by what I said of in terms of a video game, this is the kind of one that's standing head and shoulders above the rest, saying you can do better. Like you don't. We're literally doing things that you've seen in other stories, but have a different kind of impact and create emotional, like visceral reactions because you being the one who played as Joel for the first game, you being the one to like have the agency to make these decisions. It's kind of funny to see that we're in, no pun intended, uncharted territory. Like,
ooh, Naughty Dog game.
Played games. I'm a true fan. But it is really funny I said like there's never been a story like this. Like that's not true. There have been a lot of stories where you've had to sympathize with an antagonist to see their point of view, but I don't think I've ever seen it like this of you now have to be them in that kind of way.
Yeah. To your point, what I love about this game, it really deals with this thing that I've always wanted to see done in a movie. I love revenge stories. I love a damn good like Kill Bill, John Wick are like two of my favorite movies. The thing that often I find funny about a revenge story is the character's peace of mind and arc and closure ends at the revenge. It's like they have found their peace now because they have gotten their revenge.
The thing.
they got the final kill.
Yeah.
And this game kind of sets you up in a way where that's where you like kind of might be, especially if you didn't hear any of the leaks, that you might be under the presumption that's where the game's going. Joel dies, Ellie gonna get revenge and fuck up Abby. Like that's what it seems like. But
that's half the game. That's where you're going.
So, but it explores the concept though of what is the true nature of revenge and how devastating can it be. Like to me, what really impacted me, especially by the final moments, the themes of the cyclical nature of revenge. That revenge doesn't really bring closure. You said it when we were first talking of like evil begets evil. Good intent, but selfish motivation can often lead to devastating consequences. Abby gets her revenge, but she's clearly not at peace, and she has this weight of guilt on her, and she's not portrayed as a good person in the first half of you playing as her.
Abby has had the character arc that Ellie has. Ellie is on Abby's character arc. She gets the fulfillment of getting that revenge, kind of having this like seeding thing, and it's unfulfilling. She lost Owen. She's now fighting for a cause that really was only training her to do the one thing she was tasked for, and it takes her overcoming her preconceived notions with Lev and Yara, like as the Scars or the Seraphites, to kind of like understand what a new purpose is. And Ellie is on that same track, but is still a few steps before, whereas like for her, Abby is that like preconceived notion of what she has. Again, it is that cycle. The game is, and we'll talk about structure and everything, but I think it both works for and against the game of like you're repeating these actions, but it is all about perspective. And Abby, she's the bad guy. Like we get that, but it is that it's so easy to say that. And I think it being what a game is and us having that agency over Joel and having that ability to play with him for the first game, to see people, and not like what you said, I get if you can't handle like that moment of what Abby does for killing Joel, but I really like we're talking about themes. It really is point of perspective, and a lot of people are talking about it like, oh, I just wish I started as Abby, then I'd get it. No, like
that's the point.
Yeah,
it's like this weirdly. It deals with beyond perspective. There's also like they don't really ever call it out, but there's a thing about communication in here, and really the ultimate message is forgiveness. That's what was so impactful to me in the final moments, in the final scene when they do the flashback to the last time Joel and Ellie spoke with each other. When Ellie lets Abby go. And it didn't quite make sense to me at the time. You get this flash of Joel, and you're like, well, when you get this flash of Joel, why don't you fucking kill Abby? And I was conflicted. I was like, I've grown to like Abby. I don't really know if I want Abby to die. You see in that scene where the whole point is about forgiveness, like between Joel and Ellie. Really, there's no peace of mind to come from this, and there's only more loss to come from doing this act of revenge.
And it's so easy to hide acts of hate in altruism. And like you see like Ellie become, because that's the point of I liked Abby more than Ellie by the end.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I disagree with that. But so fuck you, Pat.
Well, civil discourse on the internet here today. Even in the actions of Ellie, like so many, I've heard the discourse being like, I never wanted to do what Ellie was doing. She was being so hateful. It's like that first half, like, no, I killed Joel. I'm on her side. Even the moment where she has to kill Nora with the pipe and you have to push the button, like you see the effects on her as a person but like you understand the motivation of where she's coming from. That's the task Naughty Dog sets up for themselves of like getting you to sympathize of like someone like Manny, who is like somebody I really like started to like, or Mel or Owen.
Well, to be honest, the whole other than Isaac, but like WLF, I really like.
It is like these cycles and these broken things of Ellie like would kill Abby in the end. Then it would just be Lev coming after her. Then it would just
Yes.
be like, and it is just the beautiful framing device. I don't know if it was Neil Druckmann, the writer, like came up with about Joel playing the song in the beginning, Future Days, what starts with, if I were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. And Ellie repeats that throughout the game.
Yeah.
To the point where she's lost 2 of her fingers. She's lost Dina. She's lost everybody.
That's great, yeah.
She hasn't lost her humanity, but she's now lost the ability to play the last thing Joel had for her. There is no place where this ends well, and it is the hardest lesson to learn. It's sometimes you just gotta let it go. And you look at someone like Tommy, who couldn't, who at some point can't walk, loses his eye,
loses his relationship.
Yeah. That's the message that a lot of gamers are having trouble like dealing with, of like, what is that satisfaction you get after doing the thing? Is it worth it?
The thing about that opening with Joel, what I loved about that, it immediately challenges the result of the last of the Last of Us. The first game.
The first Last of Us.
Immediately gives way to the perspective of playing as Abby. The first time you play The Last of Us, you are in Joel's perspective, right? So when you're playing that game, and then of course you want him to save Ellie. But then when you start this game, yeah, he lies to her at the end of it, and you're like, oh, there's going to be some consequences to it. But when you start this game, it had me going, dang, you know, Joel kind of did mess up. But of course, because I'm in Joel's perspective, I don't blame him. I understand where he's coming from. So then when you're looking at it from Abby, it's easy to just chalk her up to being the villain. Like, don't get me wrong. The whole time I played as Ellie, I hated Abby. I hated Abby.
Yeah.
I hated her. The idea of switching to her, it took me a while before I could really get... It wasn't until she was like tied up by the Seraphites, and the Seraphites saved her, and then, oh, this is interesting. So there's going to be this like little journey where she's going to bond with the Seraph. Like, that's when slowly but surely I started to really like Abby.
Yeah.
Let's look at it from, like, really look at it from Abby's perspective. She has no connection to Joel. She has no connection to any of these people, other than the fact the Fireflies were her family. Her father was murdered, and this mysterious man named Joel murdered everyone she cared about, her father, and also prevented the cure from being possible. In that light, I'm like, I can't really fault her for hating the hell out of Joel.
No.
But a lot of people can't get on board with it because the first game you're playing as Joel, you're in Allie's perspective, but that's my point about like communication.
But it's so funny because that was the discussion after the first Last of Us, which I was very much on the other side of. I didn't agree with what Joel did. Like, you were forced to kill that surgeon, which like the second game very retroactively makes the kind of, you know, inception point for everything that Abby does. It always, and this is what's beautiful about that last scene where he's talking to Ellie, is like, if the Lord gave me a chance to do that moment, I do it all over again. Yeah. And it's people trying to find these pockets of humanity in like the end of the world. The biggest thing about this game coming out is people saying like, oh, The Last of Us is perfect. Why would we need a sequel? And, you know, Naughty Dog always said like, well, it's only if we came up with a story. For whatever reason, like, I was guessing this was going to be a plot point, but I didn't know it would be the story of somebody coming back for revenge based on what Joel did. And at that moment, and even in the moment of Joel dying, seeing kind of like Abby's reaction, like kind of how intense she is, how passionate she is, it really locked in of, oh, this was inevitable. Yeah. Like, this story was going to happen. The beginning of this game really is the kind of the emotional dilemma that players are playing with, is that Joel did an act of kindness for himself, but it's never without loss. That's what Ellie is about to go on his journey of like trying to do something for herself, but she's going to lose something along the way. The parallels between Abby and Ellie, I think, are so interesting because Ellie is so farther along than Abby is in some ways, and so behind. And I get the attachment that characters, like gamers, have to her, but I never saw Joel as a hero.
Oh, really?
I saw that he cared about Ellie, and I cared about Ellie, and so like I have that kind of voyeurism with her. When he died, and Ellie's going out to get Abby, I'm like, okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from because I cared about Joel too, but you know, this is a world where that happens. It wasn't that hard of a switch for me as I'm playing as Ellie or as Abby, and it does like Seattle day one, and I'm like, oh, you're really doing this. You're doing a second game as Abby. Yeah. It didn't take me too long for me to get what Naughty Dog was doing of like, look at her perspective and then shed the weight of like the anger that Ellie had. Yeah. That being said, doing a boss fight against Ellie, I didn't want to do.
No, yeah. I was about to be really mad at the game when you're fighting Ellie at the theater.
Breaks her arm.
Yeah, I was about to be
by the throat.
Pissed at the game if I was like, you're not really going to make me kill Ellie, are you?
We were texting or like we were talking about it, and I think you got to a moment. You're like, I gotta be close to the end, right? I'm like, no, you got a bit more.
Oh yeah.
And the game has a lot of those moments of like, all right, they're at a farm. It has to be over now. Abby's like about to find the fireflies.
I mean,
it's gotta be.
If the game is at times repetitive, absolutely, like in its gameplay, especially for a game of this length, it's kind of like when you watch a movie that's pitched as an action movie, and they're like, it's been too long without action. We need an action scene.
Yeah.
Because there were times where I'm like, do we really need to be fighting these clickers right now? Can we just move this along? I got to point something out really quick. Especially, I know we're not doing a traditional type of game review necessarily. When the leaks came out, here's how at least I heard it. Joel dies early, killed by Abby. And then you play as Ellie. And then halfway through, you play as Abby. And Ellie's the bad guy. So I was under the impression this was all linear. Like, you know, you know how the first Last of Us is linear?
Yeah, very straightforward.
Yeah. And this one hops around time a lot. There are times where you're just playing in a flashback. So you do Seattle Day 1, 2, and 3 as Ellie. You like you do the whole prologue leading into it. And then
jumping back to the past every now and again to see Ellie
while you're in as Ellie.
Yeah.
And then you do Abby on Seattle Day 1 with a little bit of a flashback here or there, all the way to Seattle Day 3 where they collide again, and then eventually do years later. Like that's the way the basic structure of it is. Now the idea of what those leaks were saying, sounds like a really aggravating experience to me.
Yeah.
I love the way they did it here, where you do all of Ellie. Pretty much. Like, you play as Abby a little bit to set you up.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was smart on their end.
I thought it was smart. I do think it also would be if you just, like, never played as Abby, went through all of it, she's about to kill Ellie, and then you play as her for the first time. Like...
Yeah. It was...
You didn't set me up for this, and I hate her.
That first scene where she encounters Joel, where she's having to outrun all the infected, that scared the crap out of me.
What an intro.
All character thing aside, I think the thing I'll still stand by with Joel's death that still does bother me. I wonder how I feel on a second time playing it. I'm a little bit irked that there was not a semblance of guilt or contemplation at all about... I mean, yeah, she's had her mind set on murdering him this whole time. They become so savage and ruthless, and she just beats the crap out of him. This guy just did save your life. There's this girl here who's crying. There's this part of me that was kind of like, I would have liked and I think that would have been a saving grace for a lot of people. Maybe not fully, but maybe a sliver, just to be like, she looks a little conflicted about doing this, but she has to.
I think it's more like they don't show it as much in that moment, and it's more teased throughout of you kind of see Abby in that moment have what Ellie has at the very end where she's about to kill Lev, of like, how much humanity are you willing to give up to like do what you're going to do?
Yeah, that's a good call.
And then you see like people like Mel, when Abby's traveling with her, she's pretty still shook by like what Abby did. So it's like, clearly this is not Abby and her normal. That moment when it flashes back to her killing Joel again, after she kills Joel, it really is, you kind of have this wave of sympathy come for her of like, we're not killing the rest of them. Even Owen's like, no, we had like one goal. So I think playing into that, how much revenge just blinds you to humanity.
Yeah, like, because Owen does says we're no better than the rest of them.
Yeah.
You know that thing that you always hear about, like, you know what makes a great bad guy? When the bad guy doesn't know they're a bad guy. Yeah. They think they're the good guy. This game takes it to the max. They make you play essentially as the antagonist of the game, where when you really are thrown into that character's perspective, you realize, like, well, she's not really a bad guy, you know?
Or it's not even that she thinks she's not a bad guy. It's just that she deserves this retribution. My father died, and this guy, like, you know, screwed over humanity. She thinks she's able to live with that. And then, ironically, humanity kind of like clings on to her of, oh, that wasn't as satisfying as an act that I thought I could have.
I can't meet you on that I liked Abby more. The thing is, I get it. I got to give the game credit, because I really was, like, especially when you start over again, basically. Oh, God, you got to get all the upgrades and the weapons again. Like, damn it.
As much as I was like, oh, what an emotional decision, I was like, I just upgraded Ellie's shotgun.
Yeah, like, I just did all that shit.
I, like, gave her more pills so her bow could fire further. Like, Abby just doesn't even have a knife.
And you really got to be patient with it in order to see whether or not you're going to enjoy it. It really wasn't until the Seraphite moment where I was really like, oh, I'm really starting to dig. Like, when it's nighttime, she's hung up, she gets, like, when she meets Yara, that whole first sequence I thought was fucking awesome.
When you're fighting the stalkers, like, in the woods.
Yeah, it's scary. Oh, Ellie's journey, though, if we, like I said, we're going to be all over the place here. With Ellie's journey, even with her, though, it's like, I know there's a lot of talk around Abby, because a lot of the hate is going towards the Abby.
Abby and the marketing really hit her in a way that is supposed to kind of be like, talk about it now.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Sort of thing.
With Ellie's journey, but even with her, I think some people could find it manipulative. I personally didn't, of how when she's going on this journey, when she commits certain acts, like she kills Mel and she finds out she's pregnant, because there are these parallels that are being drawn between her and At. Like there's certain things. It's like what George Lucas says about the prequels. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Poetry, it rhymes.
No, but it's not exactly the same thing. One story has like a pregnant Dina, and this has a pregnant Mel, you know.
One guy's named Owen, the other guy's named Nowen. It's, you know, they're all together.
But like when she kills Mel, you see how devastated she is by this. Or that moment where she kills Nora, and they're having you be the one who's pressing square to kill the person of just like, screw it, I'm giving full into the rage. You're watching how Ellie is morphing during her revenge quest and what that's doing to her. And even post that, like I love that you go to years later with her.
Yes.
And she has this choice. She has the opportunity to let it go, overcome her trauma, but she can't let it go. And then you really think like I was trying to like predict what's going on. Oh, all right, is Ellie gonna like save Abby and realize, you know, like it's gonna go down.
I was like, I know what moment they're gonna try to do. It could be real cheesy if they do it wrong.
I really just think that every choice the game made, it honestly earned.
I feel like, you know, talking about the first half, it is the cheap move to kill Joel. Like everybody was suspecting Dina before the leaks came out of like, oh, she's going on a revenge tale. Her girlfriend died, which would have been a little like rot and like not the most like narratively gut punching, I think. So it's an easy thing for like the player to get on her side, and even through all the brutal acts, like it's Ellie, we love Ellie, she's from the first game, you know, everyone's like, it could be such a cheap move, and it's true, but then the cards are so stacked against Abby in a way that Naughty Dog has to like come to play for her character to have any resonance. They're writing themselves into such a corner that will be nigh impossible to get out of, that it's kind of more daring that they put you such on Ellie's side at the beginning. You're gonna hate Abby. Not to keep going back to that, I don't think that is such a unthought through decision of Joel having that kind of like cheap emotional sting to the players, because even to get some people to be like, oh no, Abby got a point, like it's kind of a goal to really like that they achieved that. I'm shocked.
With Joel though, I think what was upsetting to me, especially at first, because even knowing he was going to die, like I was prepared for that. I thought that was the last we'll see of him. I thought that was it. That was the end of Joel for the rest of the game. And that was kind of frustrating to me. But then you get these like really great flashbacks. The museum one, when they're in the rocket ship and giving Ellie this like childhood, and like
I cried.
I mean, he has
emotional.
He's been trying to supplement, like the psychological aspect of Joel is like he's supplementing the loss of his daughter with this Ellie character, right? Even the scene when she learns the truth, and then that confrontation that happens, and then of course like the final flashback, you know, like, and I like the way the game messes with your perception of things. I thought that when they go to that scene where Dina first kisses Ellie and then Joel pushes the bartender off, I was like, oh, is this their last conversation? That's
which I thought I'm like, God. But then I even thought of at the first mission with Dina, like Ellie's talking about like, oh, I was gonna watch a movie with Joel, so I'm like, where is that in the timeline if they're like ending all like sad and everything? Because I knew there had to be like another beat, but I thought for a second they weren't going to show it to us, and it was just going to be yeah, he died, and they were so mad at each other. How the game kind of calls back to the first Last of Us, whether it is those moments between Joel and Ellie that you remember of like her being younger, him being older, or even like I thought the parallel between Abby and Lev of like them like to like learn about each other. Again, that museum scene of really like hammering home that this isn't just a game about tragedy, it's about remembering love. Any act of revenge, any act of anger is fueled by a passion that feels justified. And I think the kind of beautiful part of what they play in at the end, especially when, you know, I don't want to get too much into it right now, but like when Ellie is drowning Abby, she has a flashback to that reconciliation with Joel. It's the first time she's had a positive image of him. Before then, it's only been a reminder of the pain. And that's what's able to break her out of the cycle. I think them knowing very well of how much Joel, if they're going to do that in the beginning and kill him off and make that decision, how impactful his like moments need to be, like when he's like doused in, even to the point where they faked some trailers where they showed like different like character models and scenes that looked like present day but were actually flashbacks. There is a lot of conscious thought into this relationship that isn't just, you know, calling back to a first game. You're going to see it throughout. Still, again, makes it incredible that I'm still like, Abby's pretty cool.
I think the reason I love Ellie, I mean, not just because I only played The Last of Us Part 1 one time years ago. I don't have this like oh, I really love Ellie the most because I play the just in terms of like the character.
Oh, yeah.
Like I love she's just more relatable. She's funny, and I love the fact that like I didn't feel as in danger when I'm playing as Abby because she's fucking like super buff.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, like,
She's built her body to kill a man.
Yeah. Whereas Ellie, you could always feel like the struggle, and I love like certain like they on the State of Play trailer they released a gameplay sequence when Ellie goes to when she has this like huge showdown with the WLF where she holds that one girl up and she's looking for Nora.
The Vita girl who's playing.
Yeah. Like I loved all that. Ellie is just this character who I'm just more latched onto, whereas Abby is so detached from humanity that she learns about humanity, and that's her journey. Essentially, like that's the most basic way I can describe it. You know, like because that's the beautiful thing about her journey with Lev, especially Lev and Yara, because they have this war with the Seraphites, and even I'm playing the game going, what's the point of this war? Like, why are they? But then that's the way it goes in so many. Like, that's the way real world often operates. Well, so just like, wait a minute, why are they fighting? Exactly.
And then, again, the idea of the game about it's all about perspective. Yeah. And Abby has this.
You'll play as Lev in the next game.
If they want to do like DLC where it's Lev's adventures, I'd play it. But they have this whole conversation between Abby and Lev where, you know, they talk about the prophet, the martyr that died for them. Abby saying, look how many people died because of this. And Lev saying, that wasn't her teachings. Have you read her like writings? And she's like, I skimmed them. And Lev's pretty much like, she would hate this. Yeah. This fighting like is not what we were based on. You have your perspective of it. I have my perspective. And like even Ellie's perspective of the WLF is just these monsters that are killing people on sight. And then not only do you start to play as Abby and have to empathize with her, you see this community. You have to pet a dog that you end up shanking earlier in the game. And like,
I mean,
two sides.
To be fair, it's about individualism though, because the Seraphites and the WLF, no one's really portrayed. It's like Isaac's like this really awful person, and
the seeking of power will corrupt you.
And the Seraphites are never portrayed as good people, and it's only within the individuals of Lev and Yara who are like, we need to disband from them. You know?
or even just like you kill a single Seraphite or you kill a WLF and you hear someone go Tommy or like Jennifer. Right. And so it's like they have an internal life. Even at the end when Ellie's going to track down Abby and she faces the Rattlers, there's always going to be a group. There's always going to be like just some organization. Maybe Jackson is the best version of that where people aren't like eating people.
They're the closest to like bringing it back to some sense of like civility.
And it's just, you know, how like an act of evil can even corrupt that. In every group there's always like, you know, like those people who were caught by the Rattlers of like there's always some ounce of, and I think what this game does great is that even in the darkest places there's humanity in every action.
Well, I think what The Last of Us World does so well is that they know this is a survival game. The whole point is about survival. Like the basic nitty gritty of this is a survival game.
Getting out of a skirmish with a bullet left.
And then what would people really be like in a world that is so hellbent on just staying alive, you know? Yeah. And the ones you choose to trust, what does your trust level deal? It's funny for this whole long ass talk. We don't talk about gameplay at all. Like, there's nothing about
game review.
I mean, it's so rich in story. You know what really hit me when I really started to love Abby. I know the exact moment. It's when she's protecting Lev from getting killed by Isaac. Won't let it happen. And they get away, and Lev is like,
you just killed your people.
And she's like, you're my people. Oh my God. When that moment happened, I was like, oh my God, I think I love Abby.
And that's
change. That's an arc.
That is such a declarative moment about kind of the meaning of the entire game of what everybody in this game is trying to do is that they're fighting for who they love. And they're fighting for like what they love. And it doesn't matter where you come from, who you come from. And like, I think Lev's character and like the reveal of him being trans and like everything, it's just, that's one of those things of you're just dropping this with the confidence of, you know, like what Naughty Dog does. And it just has that much more impact when like you have these characters who are fighting against oppressive systems or fighting against kind of these warring bodies and saying, we're here to preserve the purity of what's left in this kind of desolate world.
Yeah.
Like, Ellie isn't trying to do that. She's trying to cause further destruction to make herself feel better.
Even though Ellie's my favorite character and we're spending so much time talking about Abby, I feel like the reason why is because I just feel like we have a different perspective. You might lean more positively towards the whole Abby side of things than I do, but I still feel like I share so much of it with you to the sense of Like, I just don't share the hate. I did at first, you know, but I don't now. It's interesting looking at the ending of this game. Clearly, Abby has suffered for her actions.
Yeah.
Like, because of her revenge, it got her friends killed, people she considered family, and then she's captured by the Rattlers, and then she like loses all muscle mass, you know. And
you see her and you're like, oh,
and in
okay,
a weird,
you've had a bad night.
In a weird way, it's like gender flip of what's Joel and Ellie from the first one.
Yeah.
With Lev and her. Not that there's a moment where Ellie goes, it's kind of like the first game, you know. But
it's weird. I was reading the script.
But
the
like
Last of Us 1
Lev's
again.
unconscious, and you know,
Wait a
you're trying to get away from these people. The other thing with Abby, this game has gotten a lot of flack prior to being released for the same crap that people get mad about all the time.
Yeah.
Which, you know, SJW, woke, whatever. I can get annoyed too when it feels exceptionally pandering. It doesn't feel that way to me in this game.
No.
There's a moment that was circulating the internet that people were just in an uproar about, and I never looked into the details as why. I'm going to make that clear right now. I have no idea exactly why, other than the amount of insults that came to the body image that Abby portrays. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't know what you're going to talk about. Abby's fucking hot. Like, I don't think that. But at the same time, I'm not like, oh, I'm repulsed. Like, you know, I'm not in that category, you know? So there's the sex scene that she has with Owen. That went around the internet, and people were like, this is shocking, disgusting. Like, it was like, no, that's all I was seeing. Every clickbait thumbnail. It kind of hit me when I was playing the game. I wonder if, like, this is only going to feed into, like, the argument more that people have who are just to hate anything that, even if it's not doing it, but if it kind of resembles woke or whatever, I can't help but feel that people would probably, they still have issues with the character, but I think they'd be a lot easier to adjust to if Abby was a guy. If the character was male, I don't think it would be as much of a problematic thing. In movies and shows, we've seen bad guys become good. There's a Hobbs and Shaw movie. You know, I mean, that's not the same thing. Definitely not. But
Han is still alive.
Yeah,
Jason
right.
Statham is off scot-free.
But even Negan in The Walking Dead, who did a similar act to, and in some ways I feel like that was intentional to sort of reflect that a little bit. Like, Negan beat the shit with a baseball bat to two main characters. And then he eventually becomes like a main character in the show and is essentially a protagonist. You got two things going for you that I think, you know, people who just hate anything woke or SJW, whatever, which I don't think are in itself bad. I don't think those are bad things. I think if you look up what those mean, I think when it's annoying is when it's obvious, like you got white dudes at the top who are doing pandering diversity. That's when I can get
when
really
you feel like they're trying to hit a quota versus like, have colorful characters that like
that feel built into the actual DNA of the story of the town.
Yeah.
Like that's where the difference lies, right? And I feel like it's natural here. But I think the issues that have like come up are just like, you know, Ellie is lesbian, has this girlfriend, and then on the flip side, you got your straight girl that you're playing as, who's like buffed out like a dude. It's the antithesis of like the female characters that may be gamers who are primarily male. There's a lot of female gamers out there, primarily male, who are just not on board for it. And I'm not saying all females will like this game. I'm sure there are plenty of females who hate this game after playing it. I just think there's a lot of unwarranted hate that goes in this department. I think more would be forgiven if Abby was a guy. I don't want Abby to be a guy, but I honestly do think that's a political, social thing that surrounds this character.
I think it's because the game deals with it so nonchalantly of, you know, that's in Abby's character again of she has literally dedicated her life to one goal, which is to kill
to
Joel.
get revenge and survive. So she's buffed out.
Yeah. She's still a woman. She's still like, you know, she had a relationship with Owen, has wants and desires. It's all about visual signifiers, and Ellie and Dina just kind of having a relationship, or like Dina being bi, but it's not the fact that it's not a plot point, the fact that it's not like a character thing for them to accept with each other. There's a conversation that Joel's like, oh, she like girls. Like, all right.
Yeah.
I'll figure that out. Like, you know, and you can tell he's kind of a rustic old school guy, but the confidence of the game to just have, you know, characters, just be characters, to have Jesse be Asian, to have Lev be trans, even though that one plays a bit more into the story of why he's excommunicated from the Seraphites. You don't look at white characters or white straight characters in content and say like, well, how is that informed by the story? It's like it's made, written, and directed by a guy from Pakistan who like you know, who has had a tougher childhood. Neil Druckmann has talked about of, you know, you depict the world you want to see. And even in the apocalypse, there's a representation for humanity, and just those boundaries at that point in society don't matter. It is about survival. And it's for all the people hemming and hawing about, you know, like hitting quotas, trying to be representative to seem woke. Even if a game of this caliber that is killing its main character from the first game in the first 2 hours, like, it's not taking it easy. It's not like taking like narrative, like, it's not, you know, sitting back and trying to do what most games would do. The fact that it can have the confidence just to depict it as normal and not make a big deal of it, I think is way more impactful than, well, it doesn't feel like it's a part of the story, or like it doesn't feel like it's adding. It's just the brazenness to like just have a diverse cast that I think the wrong people will be up in arms about.
I mean, we should talk about some basic stuff. Gameplay. Let's talk about some gameplay.
The game feels really good. I like which is funny because I do want to talk about it, but like, you know, there's ludonarrative dissonance where you just kind of have to like accept that a game's going to be a game, whereas this game is about hate, and you know, every kill means something, and you're living with it. And meanwhile, I'm about to get the best headshot with my like silenced pistol, or like toughest part is killing dogs, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean that like I can never let my girlfriend play because there are times where it's like there's certain games where it's kind of an option.
Yeah.
This one you're like,
you got to do it.
Sequence, you can't pass this unless you murder this dog, you know.
And I started the game on normal, and this was after just playing the first Last of Us, so I was finding it pretty easy. I was getting a lot of ammo, a lot of resources.
Is it that different? It's fairly similar, right? Because it's been years since I played it. But
no, it feels way better. A lot of people compare it to the Metal Gear Solid 5, which is like a big stealth game with like a lot of different mechanics. You couldn't crawl, and you couldn't like, there's a lot more like refinements. A lot of it's pretty similar, but it is
the rope,
which everybody made a big deal of. Only use it like 4 times.
The rope?
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, the thing I took so long to play it because I relish in like, I want to find everything. Like
I did that for a while,
and
I gotta finish this game.
And I was able to use the rope in some pretty crafty ways to break some windows, and then use the rope to get in and be like, ooh, I uncovered a new weapon. I got like, so yeah, you use the rope a lot. I feel like there's creative ways to use it.
Go back to those sections, because I was like, there were moments of, I gotta get out of the building. Well, good thing this 100-foot cord was over here.
I mean, like, there are times where the game
game is a game, and it's like, man, we gotta get past this flooded river. Well, good thing I have a ladder over here that I found just once. But the game feels great. Like,
I think it's awesome. Yeah,
it's the pacing issues of literally starting over in the middle. If you're playing on higher difficulty, like going into a room, circling 360 to find every resource, and then doing that 1,000 times. The feeling of just barely surviving an encounter and then like coming out with an arrow left or a bullet left. You're like, that's a survival game. Okay, that did it.
And you couldn't hold people up before, right? You can hold people up and point a gun?
Yes, you could do that in the first game, but it's much more AI reactive now, of like, they have more reactions to be like, okay.
I didn't realize that. All right, I don't remember that.
It's very simple in the first
honestly,
one.
I was way late into the game when I realized you could hold someone and point a gun. I was way late. I was like, I know
you didn't have to kill him.
I was like, I know Metal Gear you can do that. Can you do that here? Like, I had it wasn't always playing as Abby. When I was like, oh, you could point a gun while you're holding someone up. Because I
a lot of people then.
I love stealth games. I love the whole sneaking aspect. Like, there are some friends of mine who just always want to go in and like just jack them up right away, waste all their bullets, and I'm like, no, I'm about conserving. So I'll take forever because I want to just take as many people out by choking them to death as I can. You know, I love the gameplay, and like the part at the hospital too, where the giant
Rat King.
Oh my god, that scared the crap out of me. And some people who are used to the Resident Evil games probably won't get as phased, but for me, I was like, just keep running, keep running.
For Last of Us to be like, all right, the worst thing you're going to come across is like a bloated guy. You're going through ground zero where the first infected in Seattle are. Before you've activated all the doors, you can use like hearing to see through them. Be like, okay, there's a couple clickers there and there. And then you see this mass. I thought, it's Last of Us, it's the sequel. You can do some things, but like, they're not going to go there. And then you're in an ambulance and this Resident Evil, like,
it goes
crafty and
full on Resident Evil at that point. Yeah.
The first game, its boss fights were not very great. Like, it's either you're charging through, like, attacking like rounds of people, which is fun combat, or there's the one boss fight in Last of Us, the first one, where it's against David, for people who know, where you just have to sneak around corners and not step on plates so he hears you, and you're like, oh, okay. Whereas this one, you're fighting against Ellie. when she has all of her like.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like boss fights here. There's more like there's a stage, a level, like when Abby is trapped, and Yara and Lev are trying to get her.
And then
like that I kept dying at. Like,
that was
really hard.
I got bad at dodging. Dodging wasn't in the first game, so that was
okay.
Yeah, so that
I
was
would have to consciously remember to dodge.
You just have to hit the button. A note. I always kept doing it in a direction. I would always go into them. So just hit the button and you'll dodge immediately. For as much as it's a game that's dour and sad, there's a real fun like game aspect of.
I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up because some people really were under the impression that all this game wants to do is break your heart. Because while it is bleak, while it is morbid, it does it ended in a way where I wasn't like I'm overjoyed. Like it ended by the time you get to its final closing moments. I was like really melancholy. You know, there's no denying that you still get that video game rush throughout the whole time. While it can be repetitive because you're pretty much doing like the same crap throughout. Climb, listen, sneak, grab supplies, kill. I think the puzzles probably could have been a little harder to solve.
Yeah, the whole all the safes. I like that kind of gimmicky stuff of like it's the date of a child's birthday, and you go to the calendar and it's like Billy's birthday. It's gonna be pretty easy to break into.
Like anytime I've encountered a safe, I'm like, well, the answer must be like. Right over there, right?
I did hear that they program so that you can crack the safe. You can listen, and it will be like neat. So, which was a programmer's month. I have a launch PS4. I don't have like a 4K TV. Game is pretty. This game,
it's beautiful.
Is pretty
beautiful. I thought all the other supporting characters, they were cool. There was no one I really loved.
Mel gets too much hate. I see a lot of hate from Mel online. I liked her. She's the pregnant lady.
Mel gets hate?
Yeah. A lot of people don't like
She's
Mel.
The one who's like fucked over the most.
Yeah.
She gets pregnant and then her boyfriend cheats on her.
I also think like she's got a really interesting performance. Like I don't know, the model they use is like just I've never seen a character like that in a game of like she looks like someone I'd work with.
And her scene where Mel calls Abby out on her bullshit, that did so much for me in terms of being like, oh thank God, Abby knows she's a dick. Like Abby is aware the way she is and what she does has serious repercussions. Like it would annoy me if it was just like I don't know what you're talking about. Well, like she clearly has this guilt of I'm aware that what I do has led to some terrible things and I need to change.
Yeah, and it's so easy. Like again, now we've spent enough time with Abby to like kind of be a bit more on her side, and I'm even like Mel, you can be a little easy because earlier she has the conversation with Mel of like, well, the Seraphites attacked us, and Mel's like, they were kids. Abby's like, it wasn't our fault, and now she brings these kids to Mel, and is like, can you help them? And from Mel's perspective, you can be like, what is your gain here? Like your whole life has been dedicated to a task, and it's so like, what's the next one?
Yeah.
It's all these like different loops.
She says like you're number one Seraphite killer, Scar killer, whatever. You know, I like Dina. I'd say out of all the characters, I like Dina the most because I'm fucking woke.
Me too. Yeah.
That's what it all comes down to. It has nothing to do with the actual character.
Ooh, I like diversity. I do.
And Jesse, Dina and Jesse.
The
Asian guy and the other gay girl.
You know, Isaac, cool guy. Cool guy.
Cool.
Really
great
liked
character.
him.
Great character. Hated Owen. He shouldn't
Owen,
be in the game.
Abby, Ellie. Gosh, what a wet blanket.
Thank God Joel's dead. Tommy can go suck it.
This review turned very differently. The comments are now agreeing with us.
No, these haters listening for this long. Us talking positively around the game.
Liked Manny, then he dies, so I'm sad. Whew.
I like Manny. I mean, everyone I liked, but I wasn't exactly like they all die in the Departed way, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah,
if you haven't seen the Departed, I won't ruin it. But certain characters die in a way where you're just like, oh, they've just been shot in the head.
Yeah. You know? And it's I
that's the way it would go, right? That's the way it would go in real life.
That's how death works, and especially with Joel's death of like you don't plan for it, it's just gonna happen. Jesse getting popped in the face, I was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
Game.
That's a bummer, and it didn't redeem itself in my eyes until you see it from Abby's perspective, where she has Tommy pinned down. She's not trying to just murder him, and then a guy bursts in, and she just instinctively shoots him. Like that's in that moment, because the way you see it from Ellie's perspective when you're playing as her is, oh my God, this beast of a woman just murdered again.
You monster. Yeah. You just murdered a pregnant lady and her husband. You murderer.
And when you get to the part where with Abby, you see the way she shoots him, it's not like
die, Jesse.
You know, it's not that.
But the game does that enough. What I think is a brilliant part of the game is the farm scene of the game has established it will kill characters. It is not afraid to. Abby leaving Ellie and like her cutting years later on the farm, I think we are such in her mindset of, and which I think kind of helps justify her going off to kill Abby, of we've been with Abby. We know that she's made this emotional resolution. She's moved on. Ellie doesn't know.
Ellie doesn't know. Exactly. And the whole game's perspective.
The whole time I'm going out to the barn with like JJ and I'm like, are we about to get like popped in the head?
I was thinking, like, is this game going to end? That's what I was thinking.
I was like, there's no way they end this happy. Yeah. There's no way this ends happy. And the paranoia that's set in of life is too good right now. Did you read any of Ellie's journal throughout the game?
Yeah, of course.
And, like, you go into her room during that section, and she's, like, you see, like, all the pages that she's talking about her skin hurts whenever she thinks of Joel, and it's how this is still eating at her, and
how, like Jesse can talk, Dina can talk about Jesse.
Yeah, and you know, like she's not able to move on. What I don't get, and I guess I do get, all the hate, even after all of this, is people being like, she didn't even get to kill Abby at the end.
Well, the people don't get it. See, the thing is,
that's the victory.
As much as I'd love to like shake whoever is saying that and be like, you don't get it.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I can understand if the whole game is it's challenging, not in like the task of the game. Like, the easy part is the gameplay.
Yeah,
it's really accepting the plot points, which is a challenge.
Kill a person ain't that hard.
It's accepting and doing what you can to really understand what the game is talking about.
Yeah,
I don't want to insult anyone who feels that way.
No,
because I get if you feel that way. Because like I said, the game sets you up in a way where you might not be able to get on board with Abby.
Yeah.
And if you can't get on board with Abby, but that's a beautiful thing about the game.
Yeah.
I think it's a polarizing game.
Yeah.
And I love that because it opens itself up to a wide variety of different emotional reactions to the way most people don't like the whole Joel being killed thing, but I feel like some people might like it. There are people who are going to hate Abby. Some people are going to love Abby. Some people are going to hate that ending. Some people are going to love that ending, you know? The game made me mad plenty of times, but I also felt like I'm supposed to be mad at the game right now. You know?
There's very few games that I think can tie in the act of playing the game into kind of the same dilemma as the story that the game is playing. And that kind of the beautiful thing about video games, and what I think Last of Us 2 really like capitalizes on, is that the fact that it is in your hands. They're telling a story. It's going to be their story and they're doing it. But it is so conscious of the fact that you have to control these characters. There are other games where like you have to make the tough decision in the cutscene, or like you just have to like do the thing, and you know, it was tough, but you got through it. This is a game that's making you an active participant in a way that is kind of against your will sometimes. Whether you're for Ellie or against Abby, or for Abby and against Ellie, like there's always an opportunity that it's using as a gaming experience, not just a storytelling device. Make you think about the actions of characters. I think that just kind of gets people riled up a bit more of like, why did I have to hit the button? I didn't want to do that.
Some people also hate that idea though. And I can understand that. Some people just want only pure. It's like the people
read a book.
It's like the people who want, just the revenge movie of like something happens wrong to the guy or girl and they get revenge. Some people just want something that's simple to live that cathartic experience. And this game, I think, challenges its audiences to see if they can get on board with trying to understand and explore it at a deeper level. And some people don't want that. Like the game, it's a video game that's striving for this strange, realistic, not realistic in terms of what you're doing necessarily, but realistic in terms of the emotionally
experience. Grounded.
And so for a game to be like, we want to make this feel like as real as possible, not just in aesthetic, but in the emotion, I think is bold, and it's awesome that it's pissing people off, and it's awesome that other people are loving it.
And the fact that it's the quickest selling like PS4 game above Spider-Man, above like Uncharted 4. It's so easy to look at this cynically and just think of it as cash grabs, but it's funny that none of the discussion, none of the vitriol has come from gameplay. None of it has come from the fact of it being a video game, but the choices as storytellers to make daring decisions. If that's the result of all of this, like I'm kind of for that, because I think, whether it's Last Jedi or whether it's like some other piece of content that comes out and really makes you evaluate your relationship with either IP or content or art, to question it is not to like spit in your face and say it's bad. It's to make you value why do you emotionally get invested in art. I think Last of Us 2 is just another example of, we're not telling the story that you think you want. We're telling the story we think you need.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's not the story of The Last of Us. It's the story of all of us. That's my haiku. not even the right number of syllables, so put that on my gravestone.
I loved it. I love getting caught up in the gameplay too. When when you're like just running and suddenly you're running fast, you're like, oh we're in an action now.
Oh my god! I just had some emotion resolution, but I gotta get the.
You hear the rumble, like someone's watching.
Well,
where am I?
You're a clicker, and you're like, I just killed you.
Yeah. They probably could have done a little bit more with like the actual infected. They didn't really amp that up.
This game's not about that though. In the same way the first one is.
It is a little bit of a Walking Dead kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where some people are like, it just rips off the wall. I'm like, no.
Zombies.
It's kind of similar, sure, but it doesn't just rip off the Walking Dead. It has a really cool progression. Like the basic version. And we're gonna wrap this up shortly. Ellie gets set up for the revenge story. She's going on a typical revenge story. And I'm loving it. Like when she's first messing up all the WLF, I'm like, what they deserve. All you die.
I love death and killing.
Yeah. And you just feel like so badass. You get in the Jeep with freaking Jesse and you're like shooting everyone.
I'm coming for you, Abby.
Yeah. Then slowly you're like, oh, she's kind of going down a dark path. Okay.
All right. Beat that person with a pipe.
But still, And then she kills Owen and then she kills Mel and you're like, the consequences of revenge. And then you shift into Abby's perspective. I think the game has a nice progression of getting you from what you think you're about to play into here's what we're really gonna deal with, and how both their journeys are they're gonna coincide with each other. I think it's beautiful. I don't think there needs to be another Abby story. I think Ellie deserves. I'm really hoping Ellie can get a happy. Like if they do a part 3, I really want Ellie to get some kind of happy ending.
Yeah,
because she's just been like through pure suffering, like most of these people in the world have. But
but do you end The Last of Us happy? Is that a story that? Because
I don't know
that in this kind of world, it's at what cost?
But that's the point of like what I was talking about. Of what do you expect from a video game? Does it upset you to not want to do to do a game that wants to challenge you in that way? Or are you like, it's a video game, I should be feeling happy and it should just be fun? Or is there a gray area where we can meet each other at? You know what I mean?
Or can we push this art form forward? I get it. This is something that a lot of people care about. Man, am I happy that it exists in such a conversational way that it does.
I love it. I love debating with people who disagree with me on it, with people who played the game. I just gotta leave it at that.
2 spoilers. I think I got the gist.
Oh man, it was crazy how many people have such strong opinions who haven't played the game.
Yeah,
there are YouTube channels who report so much negativity on The Last of Us 2 who have never even played the first one.
That sounds like exhausting. It really just tires me
their
out.
videos are skyrocketing, and do you all right, good for you. I'm glad you're profiting in whatever way you can.
You figured it out.
But just know this, if you made it this far, I'm not reading a single comment on this video.
I'll read all of them.
I'm not reading a single comment. Wait to talk with people in person who have played the game, because I know some people who don't really like it, and I know some people who love it.
And if you disagree with me, it fuels me.
Yeah.
So I read everything.
But anyway, guys, all that being said, thank you, Pat, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
And you were someone who was like the things that stood out to me the most. I was thinking about like, with everyone I know, those are probably the similar things that stood out with you.
We're kind of on the same wavelength.
Yeah, when it comes to like thematic exploration and character, I was like, we're probably on the same page here. Yeah, I didn't want to bring on someone who disagrees with me.
It's just an hour of yelling at each other.
Like, shut the fuck up, Pat. Let me talk. My channel. That wasn't my intent. I wanted to clear up my thoughts after like 4 to 5 hours of sleep beating this game so I could hurry up and do a review.
We've been like spacing out, just like jonesing at the chance. And for it to just end in anger would not have been fun.
I don't know how long this video is going to turn out to be, but we've currently been filming for over an hour. It's the longest I've filmed in quite a while. Thank you for being here. Where can they find you, Pat, if people stay here this long?
Find me on HOGUE_filmmaker on Twitter and Instagram, and check out my Vimeo page, Patrick Hogue. I'm a content creator, filmmaker.
Oh my God, you're a filmmaker in LA?
I hate this.
You would get killed by the rattlers.
I would die day one.
I would turn myself in.
I would lay down and let an infected me. I'm like, I'm not lasting this. This seems sad. But check out my short films, and my newest short film, So, is on Crypt TV's YouTube channel.
Yes.
We're over 200,000 views, which is pretty cool. The reception has been great. And play The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
All right, guys. Well, first video game review on the channel was the longest review I've ever done.
Next one is
Longer
Super
than
Mario Brothers 2.
This will be the last video game review I do.
This was a horrible experience.
Next time we need bullet points. We need to make sure we need
a structured way to
structure to talk about this shit.
This is a capturing of insanity.
If you haven't played it, but you're like, I don't mind getting the game spoiled for me, you're gonna be like, what the fuck were they talking about?
I can't comprehend half the things they're talking about.
All right, guys, subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you again, Pat.
Hell yeah.
See you guys soon.